Hi, everybody. This is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your horoscopes for the month of May 2019. So this is the Sun and Rising sign horoscope for Cancers, and I'm going to put it up on the screen here so that you can see it. Beginning of the month is actually the busiest, maybe the busiest 10 days of any month of the year, really, but that's debatable, I guess. The astrological energy at the beginning of the month is going to, pack a punch for everybody because there are so many transits happening simultaneously. But let's see how they're affecting you, those of you who are Cancer Sun or Cancer Rising. You'll notice that Mercury is in your 10th house of career at the very beginning of the month, making a trine to Jupiter in the 6th house. Has kind of a pretty productive feeling behind it. Using your mind and mental energy to create greater production and work, maybe very hard work with Jupiter in the 6th, but beneficial, right? Oh, look, you got a nice mutual reception sextile with Mars in the 12th house. You have to be especially careful of a combative energy in the workplace for, it may not be the work that you're doing this month may involve enemies. I'll just be honest, because the 12th house Mars in Gemini might be like gossip, backstabbing, stuff like that. So you want to be very careful about conflicts in the workplace this month, but also strategizing about how to deal with difficult situations at work, or how to strategize in order to better maximize time and efficiency at work, especially if you've been doing things in a way that's been undermining or self-destructive. This kind of feeling of like, mental ninja energy at the beginning of the month that could help you to, just be more productive and get things done more effectively. And there's probably going to be the desire, pretty willful, like forward moving, let's go kind of feeling at the beginning of the month. You're going to notice, though, that there are squares to Saturn's South Node and Pluto in Capricorn in your 7th house. That means that the need to make hard executive decisions, to define commitments, contracts, barriers, and boundaries, potential for a little bit of severity or rigid thinking in relationships, to have a kind of conflict of philosophy with a partner. Those kinds of things are also there to watch out for. So I like this time as a very productive time of problem solving, especially related to the workplace, but you may also have to make some difficult decisions dealing with different things that are exhausting you or draining you, or petty conflicts, and also be careful of a tendency for over rigid thinking or communicating. Now, when we go forward from here, you'll see that we get to May 4th, and there's going to be a new moon in your 11th house. This is a great thing for Cancers this month because this is a new moon in your house of allies, friends, benefactors, colleagues, groups. Typically, that means that there's going to be some good positive developments in a house that's traditionally associated with things and people that help you. So I like that as a new moon planting a seed in the house of allies and friends or benefactors. So then when you go forward to May 5th and 6th, like I said, the first 10 days are just packed. Then there's a Mars-Jupiter opposition between the 6th and the 12th. This has the feeling to me of some kind of philosophical conflict or confrontation in the workplace, maybe around people you employ, maybe petty levels of gossip, or, be very careful of like deceit, trickery, gossip, unnecessary argumentation or debate. But it does also have the feeling of, working really hard, possibly a little exhausting, trying to rise to challenges over an overwhelming situation, rising above the odds and beating the odds in a challenging situation, but also potential for mental, philosophical intemperance and argumentation. So you want to be careful of that. Now, when we go forward to May 7th and 8th, there we go. I was like, here we go. Mercury will conjoin Uranus in the 11th house of friends and allies. Now, this should be a very, this should feel like a bit of a mental or intellectual breakthrough. For example, a lot of the times you're going to see Mercury, Uranus together at moments where there's an epiphany or some kind of mental or intellectual breakthrough for, in the field of science or technology or something like that. This is in the house of friends and allies. So I wonder if there's not going to be some kind of breakthrough here, some kind of assistance or a unique opportunity, something new that comes and makes your life a little easier. I like this as a moment of really beneficial moment, but it is a little erratic. Like Mercury, Uranus can be a little unusual or outside of the box. So don't be surprised if help comes from a kind of an eccentric person or from something that doesn't quite fit the mold. Don't be scared to take a risk with it. Then between May 6th and the 10th, you're going to see Venus going through squares to Saturn, Pluto, South Node in the 7th house, while trining productive Jupiter in your 6th house, while getting involved with the sextile to Mars. Same thing that Mercury was doing earlier. And that energy to me has the feeling of potential. Venus is debilitated in Mars, the sign of Aries, potential for conflicts in the workplace or needing to negotiate terms with somebody that's difficult, or even firing somebody, or just more executive hard decisions that are a little bit more adversarial in the workplace or in your relationship. So watch for that from the 6th to the 10th. The first 10 days of the month, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty packed. It's not exactly easy. But then things shift quite a bit when we get to the, let's see, you go from the 10th through the 15th, and you're getting into a period of time where the sun is going to make a grand Earth trine with the moon in Virgo and Saturn, South Node, and Pluto in Capricorn. So 11 houses 11, 7, and 3. This again has the feeling of there being allies and support. That's really one of the big themes of the month for Cancers in the 11th house. But contractive, maybe some challenges in relationships. Saturn, Pluto just turning retrograde in your 7th house. Full grand Earth trine with the moon in Virgo in your 3rd, which adds this kind of third's very communicative, very mental and intellectual. And so you kind of you get this feeling of problem solving, but also there being, so it's very productive, like problem solving, productivity, but also like working with through a heavier or denser situation with Pluto, Saturn in the South Node in the 7th house. So I see this as a time of productive problem solving, 10th to the 15th. Now around the 18th, let's do this one first, actually. Around the 16th, Mars is going to enter your 1st house in its fall in Cancer, where, to be totally frank, Mars is going to give Cancerians fits for a little while. About 30 to 40 days, you're going to see Mars typically around 40 days. You see moving through a sign, and it's gonna burn a little bit for Cancerians, because this is a very debilitated Mars working through your 1st house, physically, emotionally. Don't be surprised if you feel a little more triggery, irritable, angry, heavier, lethargic, struggling with mood or eating problems or physical health, but especially kind of temper. Be very careful of that. Now this is kind of exacerbated a little bit by the full moon, which is in Scorpio in your 5th house. This is the house of children. There can be some difficult situations with children if you have them. Going to be taxing or draining or challenging. You can also issues if you're pregnant. You're getting that it's be a perfect time to get the morning sickness. But also just dynamics with children, if you have them, could be really challenging around this time, really emotionally exhausting. But the full moon in the 5th house is also very creative and potentially, but with the moon in its fall and Mars in its fall and the moon sign, mutual reception by debility going on. Something good can come out of this, but I'm thinking more about emotional pain, trauma, working through layers of this deeper emotional territory, let's just call it that. And let's just say that the potential for healing is there, but not without some real turbulence, I think, and possibly the exploration of healthy versus unhealthy desires, or forms of dependency, or what's the difference between a healthy form of dependence and an unhealthy form of dependence. Now you're going forward from there to the 23rd, and you're seeing a pretty interesting transit at that point from Mars in Cancer to Chiron in Aries. I think the potential for some degree of healing, learning, wisdom is there. This is kind of like the bandage after some of the turbulence of Mars entering your first house in the full moon. I think there's a moment of healing here, but with Aries, Chiron in Aries is very prominent, Mars in Cancer, debilitated. Chiron helps us heal, but it makes us explore the wound. So but I do think that this will be more constructive and a kind of healing, balm for the full moon energy. So that comes right after the full moon. And then at the very end of the month, you're seeing on May 29th and the 30th, you've got kind of whoops, back this up a little bit. So at the end of the month, what you're seeing is a configuration between Mercury and Jupiter across your 6th and 12th houses, with a T-square to Neptune in the 9th house. I think this time has a lot to do with working through inner doubts and questions that you have, ethical concerns, not knowing the right choice to make or the right path to choose. And there may be a very difficult decision that you have to make, or there could be a deeper level of ideological or philosophical conflict that you're working through at the end of the month. I do think synthesis is possible. I would really pay attention to your dreams at the very end of the month with Neptune so heavily involved, and look for clarification from good, healthy teachers or places of learning or healing, because 9th house Neptune can also offer some very healing energy, healing. This is the time to talk to your favorite yoga teacher, or to connect with your mentor or therapist and really share, open up, ask good questions to people you trust, your elders, etc. Because I think they can be truly helpful during this last transit of the month. So that's what I've got for you, Cancers out there. I hope your month is wonderful. Please share your stories on the YouTube feed, and I will look forward to seeing you again for June's astrology. Okay, take care. Bye.